Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Zern Math Teacher Webinar on Distance Learning. My name is Mary, and I'm a member of the Partnerships team here at Zern. In past days, we've gotten many questions about how Zern can be a resource given school closures. Today's webinar will cover just that. We're going to focus on how to support student learning during this time as a teacher, and how you can orient parents, caregivers, and kids to using Zern at home. It's thanks to donations from people like you that our entire K-5 curriculum, including 400 hours of digital lessons with on-screen teachers and supportive remediation, is available during this time. Students will be able to directly access all our top-rated content 24/7 outside of school, and that includes the paper-based materials that can be used without a device. You can submit any questions you have during this webinar through the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. We will have time for questions at the end of the session, and our team will also be following up for any unanswered questions. We will also be sharing a recording of the webinar. We're going to cover two things in this webinar. First, sharing Zern with parents and caregivers while getting kids set up at home. And second, how to monitor and support student learning by using your Zern teacher reports. Let's dive into the first one. All of the materials I share today are available on our Distance Learning Resource Center, which you can navigate to from about.zern.org and click on this Access Resources link right here. Here on this distance learning page, we have links to step-by-step instructions and video tutorials. We're also offering similar webinars to parents and caregivers, and we will share a recording of all webinars. As a first step, we recommend sharing this short video available on this distance learning page with caregivers to orient them and their kids to using Zern Math. Let's take a look.
When I sign in, my homepage shows me what I did already and what I'm supposed to work on next. The next thing I have to do is on top. Today, I'm starting lesson 5. Every lesson starts with 2 short activities for me before I get into new stuff. The first thing I have to do is number gym. Today I got some snacks. This fox is so hungry.
If we were to continue on, Milan would orient us to every component of a digital lesson, as well as the paper materials that she uses. This can be a really good video overview to share with parents and caregivers. Even if they know nothing about Zern right now, this will hit on the key aspects of the program and give them the information they need to help their kids succeed with Zern Math, including highlighting the presence of an on-screen teacher and that each new component of the digital lesson automatically loads in the student feed once the previous component has been completed. Another resource to share with caregivers is our Parent and Caregiver Pack. We've put together packs that include step-by-step instructions for accessing students' account from home and additional information on understanding the student experience and how they can support their kids' learning. Packs are available in English and Spanish. If you need additional languages, please reach out to our team after this webinar. As a next step, you'll want to provide caregivers and kids with the login information in order for them to be successful with the distance learning. You can communicate the information to parents and caregivers so that students can access their account 24/7 from home. You can find all of your students' login information by logging into your account, clicking on roster, and then clicking on this button here that says Get Login Card. Where possible, you'll want to print lesson materials to send home. Alternatively, kids can just use scrap paper to go with the digital lesson. If you know of children without access to internet or device, we have paper materials for all 800 lessons. Here it is as an example for grade 3 mission 5. I can download and print all paper materials that go along with the digital lessons here. Or I can navigate over to this side and print optional problem sets to send home as well. Now that we've gone through how to share Zern with kids and caregivers and set them up at home, we'll focus on monitoring student learning. Before I dive into the teacher and class reports we offer, I want to orient you to a video that highlights our teaching and learning approach, so that we have a glimpse into the comprehensive digital lessons and all the content your students will be working through on Zearn. In this video, we will walk through a digital lesson from an instructional lens. Let me show you a brief view of that. Again, this can be found on the distance learning page.
This lesson, students are beginning to learn multiplication and division, and the math chat helps students build an understanding of the connectedness of the two operations. Hey there, mathematician. Let's get started with the word problem. Read this problem and imagine what's happening. Math chats resemble a small group setting where students learn with their teacher. Kayla?
We know there are 20 total fish, and 5 fish can fit in each tank. We're trying to find out how many tanks they'll need for all 20 fish.
You got it. Here is one tank. Let's start by putting 5 fish in this tank. Keep going. Students begin by visualizing the problem to help them make meaning of the problem and understand the mathematical work required to solve. During independent digital lessons, students visualize problems with rich animations, like these fish, and construct their own visual models using high-quality digital manipulatives. This approach helps all students build flexible and accurate problem-solving skills that they can apply across different problem contexts. As students work through the problem, digital manipulatives provide in-the-moment feedback that helps students test and confirm their thinking. Here, students are asked to relate the known parts of the problem to a multiplication equation, and then relate their multiplication equation to a division equation. As students work with pictures, animations, concrete objects, and digital manipulatives, they develop a deep understanding of what the abstract symbols mean and the relationship between the operations. Let's solve this next problem in your notes.
That was only one small moment of a concept development activity from one lesson in the beginning of 3rd grade, where students are starting to connect the idea of equal groups to multiplication and division. The full video orients to each component of the digital lesson and the balance of procedural fluency, conceptual understanding, and application work throughout. As a reminder, we have over 400 hours of digital lessons available 24/7 on our site for grades K through 5. With that context, let's move into looking at the teacher reports that can support student learning. With these reports, you can see everything from the exact time a student logged in to the total time spent learning this week. During this time of distance learning, we recommend focusing on 2 specific teacher reports, the Tower Alerts report and the PACE report. I'll start first with the Tower Alerts report. Digital lessons are mastery-based, and students need to complete every component of the independent practice portion of the lesson, the Tower of Power, to move on. Let me quickly show you a Tower of Power, again, from the video that highlights our teaching and learning approach, content you have at your disposal to get started.
After guided practice, students demonstrate their new learning in the Tower of Power. In the Tower of Power, students work through multiple stages of independent practice, solving problems that become more complex and less scaffolded as they progress. Students need to answer all questions correctly to complete the Tower of Power and unlock the next lesson in the mission. This tower begins with a concrete model to determine the unknown number of groups, and progresses to using a different strategy, an array, to solve the problem. If students get any part of a problem wrong during a digital lesson, they get personalized, embedded remediation that provides just the right amount of support. Remediation support breaks down the question into smaller steps with more supportive manipulatives that allow students to understand and correct their mistakes. Then, students demonstrate understanding on a new problem. If students continue to struggle after multiple remediation paths, teachers are alerted in class reports and have precise visibility into where students need differentiated support.
The Tower Alerts report will show you where and when students need additional support in order to move on to the next digital lesson. Here is what an alert looks like. Each alert is specific to a student and to a lesson. You can see information about when and how often the student struggled in the lesson, and whether the student was able to complete the tower by working through the boost. You can use the High Completed button to identify students who are still struggling and can then decide to assign a new lesson or check in with the student to help them progress to the next digital lesson. We recommend that you check this report twice a week to monitor where students may be struggling and to ensure that no student is stuck and unable to move on to the next lesson. On our Distance Learning Center, we offer a short video tutorial to orient you again to the Tower Alerts report. The second report that we recommend for teachers is the PACE report. In the PACE report, you see aggregated data of student progress through the digital lessons. You can scroll down to view real-time student-level data. Take a look at the number of lessons each week completed by the students, as well as the time that they are spending working on those lessons. Each digital lesson takes about 30 minutes, and we recommend that students complete one a day during this time. This report can be a really helpful metric to watch to make sure that kids are continuing their math learning. So that's how you can support student learning during school closures, by sharing resources with parents, caregivers, and kids, and monitoring student learning through the class reports, specifically the Tower Alerts report and the PACE report. I'll pause here and take questions.
We've had a lot of great questions in the chat, and so feel free to add more there. We have our first question is from Trish asking about the teacher in the video we just watched. Will that be me via Zoom with my class? That's a great question. The on-screen teacher you saw is part of the digital lesson. So each lesson on Zearn is about 30 minutes and includes on-screen teachers to orient kids to concepts and do different concept development activities. You can think of the lessons as a digital co-teacher of sorts. We didn't see this type of activity, but we also have on-screen kids as well, so that students can hear other students talking through their math thinking and work through an activity called a Z-Squad with peers. Again, on-screen peers, we film teachers and kids in our studios, and so that it's not a Zoom that you'll have to do with your kids, although you could certainly Zoom the lessons if you want to. Second question, can parents print the hard copy materials at home, or do I need to do that as a teacher? Parents can print all the materials at home. If students are completing digital lessons and have access to a device, in the upper right-hand corner of all of our digital lessons, there's just a button to print, and so parents can print it off there. If you want students to complete problem sets or additional activities, we do recommend that you print those and send them home with kids. Parents are always welcome to set up their own account and can print those directly as well. We've had a few questions of the cost of Zearn Math. So our instructional materials, the 400 hours of digital lessons and paper-based materials are available at no cost to teachers and families through individual accounts that you can set up yourself. Our school accounts include district-wide and school-wide rostering, Clever integration, additional reports, and more. Those are $2,500 per school per year for an unlimited number of teachers and students. And our team is standing by to expedite the process of getting those set up if that's something that your school or district is interested in. Another question around our supports for special education learners from Monica. Zearn Math is built with accessibility in mind. It's a core learning principle of our instructional approach. On our Help Center, we have a guide on all of the embedded supports for special education learners, from the color choices we use to closed captioning, to a lot of different other features that you as a teacher can choose to orient kids to support them. And so on our Help Center, if you go to help.zearn.org, you can just put in special education or kind of search for a term related to that, and you'll find that guide. Some questions on using this as a review time from Kelly. If students have already done a lesson, could they complete a lesson a second time? If you as a teacher can assign students to any topic in the curriculum. And so if you assign students to that topic, they will be prompted to do it even if they've already done it again. And we have found that this is a great time to review and strengthen foundational understanding. We've gotten some questions around assigning specific lessons. Assigning specific lessons are a feature that we're working on right now. It's a feature that will be part of our school accounts, so it will be available to teachers whose school purchases the school accounts as of July. Our team is working on it as fast as we can. As a nonprofit, we rely on donations to add new features, and so we're working as hard as we can, and we would love to be able to offer it to every teacher. However, we just aren't resourced to do that, just given that we already provide 400 hours of free content to over 2 million kids every day. A great question from John: is there a way to see where students struggle during the lesson? Absolutely. So in the Tower Alerts report, which we just talked through, you can actually see where students struggled, and then if they were able to move past that struggle and continue on. Another question from Gabriella. When a student is struggling and they're not able to complete an objective successfully, how can I help further if I don't have contact with the student? It's a really great question. Zearn digital lessons are mastery based, and so students do need to complete the entire Tower of Power and answer every question correctly to move on. You have a couple different options during this time. If you do have contact with the student, help them work through, could share kind of information with parents or caregivers. Another option is to just move them forward and set them to a different topic in the curriculum. That's why we recommend looking at the Tower Alerts report every single, or twice, 2 to 3 times a week, in order to see where students are struggling. Question from Eileen about what features will be available in our accounts after July. On our website page, we have an account comparison. You can see the full difference between school accounts and individual accounts there. Again, as a nonprofit, we rely on donations to make our content available to individual teachers and to families. And so all of our content is and will remain available at no cost to teachers and families. And the additional tools that we sell them in order to continue being able to offer that content and resource our company. Another question: will each student be able to work at their own pace? Absolutely. So every student will work through digital lessons at their own pace. There's lots of supported embedded remediation throughout, where students who perhaps are a little more familiar with the content will move a little more quickly. Students who need more remediation or need more support and more scaffolding will go through a little more slowly. And so we recommend setting students to kind of the beginning of the mission actually that you want them to work on. Our Help Center and our distance learning page has recommendations on content to assign them to, and just letting them progress forward. A great question from Tammy: would you be able to quickly run through the various parts of a lesson that the kids do during 30 minutes? Absolutely. So every lesson has a mix of fluency, application practice, and concept development, and then an independent practice activity at the end that is mastery based, where they can demonstrate their new knowledge. So students start the digital lesson by working through 2 different fluency activities. The first is a number gym activity, which is an adaptive number sense activity based on kind of what they've kind of shown throughout their progress that builds foundational number sense. Then they work on a lesson aligned fluency. Then they work on a concept development activity, a guided practice. It's called guided practice, math chat, learning labs. We have lots of different kinds of concept development experiences so that students experience just a range of activities. And then the final piece is the Tower of Power, which is an independent practice activity. On our distance learning page, we have 2 different videos. One video is a video that orients to the instructional approach of each component of our lessons. That's more recommended for teachers because it'll orient you to our learning principles and kind of the balance of fluency and concept development and application practice that's happening throughout our lessons. The second one, which is where we're highlighting here, where Milan, who's a student, she actually goes through the digital lesson and shows every component as well. That one's more made for a student to orient students to how to work through each component of the digital lesson. Another question around when should we change assignments? So we recommend that during this time, setting students to a mission that you want them to work on, either if they have been using Zearn in your classroom, setting them to kind of where you just left off, or you could use this time for foundational review. That guidance of where you could set them is on our Distance Learning Center, and then just letting them go. We recommend that they work through every lesson in that mission, and as they finish the mission, they'll go on to the next mission. The one thing that you'll need to check is the Tower Alerts report to see if any student is stuck and needs more support and needs more assistance, in which case you can, if there is a means for you to check in with them, that would be a great option. Otherwise, you can just move them forward to the next topic so that they continue on. Some questions around our kindergarten curriculum from Amanda, great questions. So in first grade through fifth grade, our digital lessons are designed to be full digital lessons. What we found in working through with kindergartners is to be more developmentally appropriate, we needed something a little bit shorter. And so our kindergarten activities are short digital activities designed to build number sense. And so our kindergarten activities, you can assign them, we recommend, to the beginning of the sequence. We offer about 200 digital activities for kindergartners. So certainly a lot of content, and they can work through that. A question from Angela about, can student reports be printed for parents? Absolutely. On our Help Center, there's step-by-step instructions on where to print the reports and how you can do that. Again, just some question on reports. So as part of our free accounts, we offer 4 classroom level of reports that are available to teachers. Schools and districts can get additional reports as part of our school and district accounts, which are $2,500 per school per year for an unlimited number of teacher and kids. We are setting those up now. So if you set one up now, you would get the remaining of this year and then all the way through the end of the 2021 academic year. Another question about, how do you move students to a new topic? On our Help Center, we offer step-by-step instructions on how you set kids to another topic or another mission. If you just go to help.zearn.org and search set topic, you'll find that article. Another question on creating a class and assigning lessons from Elizabeth. I'm a teacher. Can I create a class and assign lessons or assign content even if my school hasn't purchased Zearn? Any teacher can directly access our curriculum at no cost. And so any teacher can go in and set up an individual account, set up a classroom, assign content, a mission, or a topic to students, and those students will be able to access Zearn 24/7 outside of school. A question about if teachers can track how long the student is working on in the program. Teachers can see here in the PACE report how much time students have spent, and this is a report available as part of our individual teacher accounts. A great question from Tammy on, is there a way to challenge students beyond the lesson? We do offer bonuses for every lesson. They can be navigated through My Stuff, and the video that we showed of the student actually shows how to navigate that as a student. The page we're pulling up right now, you can actually see for every single lesson there's a bonus. Students won't be prompted to just like automatically complete the bonus. It is an enrichment activity, but yes, you can orient your kids to go complete the bonus, and it will be a way to stretch their understanding, their extra challenging problems. Laura asks, when her school closed, they left off on fractions. Is there a way to just start at fractions? Absolutely. So depending on where you are, if 4th or 5th grade, you could certainly start kids on the fraction module that you last left off on, and we would just recommend starting them to the beginning of the mission and letting them work through. A few questions about devices. Zearn is browser-based. We are internet-based, and so it can be accessed through any browser on a computer and an iPad, a Chromebook. There isn't an app for Zearn. We'd love to develop an app, so if we get enough donations, we'll be able to fund that work, but we don't have an app right now. It's only through your browser. A question from Laura around if a student's struggling with a mission, how can you move them forward? Because students can get stuck in the Tower of Power. Again, we would recommend looking at your Tower Alerts report at least twice a week. And if students are stuck and getting lots of alerts in their Tower Alert report that they're not able to move past, the lesson itself has embedded remediation that students will get, and many students are able to move past that, kind of crack the Tower of Power and move on. If they are stuck, we would just recommend during this time either checking in with them or moving them, resetting their assignment to the beginning of the next topic. There's a couple of questions around what to do around assessments and grades during this time. We would defer to your school or district policy for that. As a curriculum company, our mission is to create great instructional materials, and we would look to kind of school and district leaders for guidance on how to translate into specific grades depending on school policy.